We're pleased and privileged to have Kylie Kaufman, who's Community Engagement and Volunteer Manager at Family Promise, and she's here to share with us this morning many new developments that are occurring with Family Promise these days. It's so good to see volunteers from years past to be present with us, as well as some new faces. Kylie wants to introduce herself, but would like to open us up with a word of prayer. The Lord be with you.
And also with you.
Let us pray. Lord God, we come to you this morning. We humbly ask that your Spirit would descend upon us, guide us, and lead us in this time of learning about the work of Family Promise here in the Gallatin Valley. Lord, you made yourself known to those who were without a home, who were marginalized, who needed help. And so, Lord, we ask that your Spirit would guide us in this time of learning, that we too may befriend those who are seeking help in our midst. Bless us in this time together. We pray these things in your most holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
So my name is Kylie Kaufman. I am the Community Engagement and Volunteer Manager at Family Promise. I actually started at Family Promise 2 years ago as an intern at MSU. So in January of 2020, I started with them, and then after I graduated, they offered me a job, and I've been sucked in ever since. I absolutely love it. Just curious to know my crowd, who has been involved with Family Promise? Raise a hand. Okay, awesome, exciting. So you guys know the basics of Family Promise, but there's definitely been a lot going on in the past 2 years, so I'm excited to update you and kind of, just share what we're up to. We've been very busy. So when I started as an intern, there was 4 people on staff, and then just about 2 weeks ago when we were doing our payroll, we have 25 people on staff. So it's been a quick growth, but it's been amazing. So the 3 main programs of Family Promise are prevention for homelessness, shelter for families experiencing homelessness, and then stabilization, so that the families don't go back into the cycle of homelessness. And I will just explain those programs a little more, as well as more of what's new. All these pictures of our cute little families, so enjoy that. So prevention is the first program. We want to prevent families from even experiencing the crisis of homelessness. We have that in 2 ways. We have our Help Us Move In program, so that's financial support for families that are moving into housing. It's pretty crazy to have to spend your first month's rent and a security deposit. That can be over $2,000, $3,000. A family that doesn't have that extra money, then they can just not get into housing. So we have that funding to help families to get into housing with that. And then prevention, so we don't want the families to get evicted, so we can help with rental assistance if they're falling behind of rent. And we also have done landlord mediation, so trying to prevent the families from getting kicked out of their housing. Both of these programs are paired with case management, so we're not just throwing money at the program or at the problem. We're sitting with the families and we're helping them build a budget so they're not getting into these situations again. And then we're also just helping them find other resources that could be helpful in the community, like the food bank and all of that stuff. And we can only help if it seems like it'll be a sustainable solution. So we're not just going to give them rent money and then next month they need to come back to us. It's going to be meeting with us and saying like, oh, we're short on we had quarantine this week or this month or whatever, so we're short some money. But then we can help them with finances with that. But if there's a bigger situation where they're going to experience homelessness in the next month, then we'll help them explore different options. Emergency shelter is what most of you are probably the most familiar with. Before COVID, it was the rotational shelter where the families would move from church to church each week. And when the stay-at-home order hit, and there's just a lot of risk, obviously, mingling volunteers with our guests. So So we were lucky enough, St. James, they have their rectory building that they let us use. It's now called the Roxy's House. And so we moved our families from the churches into just to be permanently at the static site there at Roxy's House, and we were able to serve 3 families there. So this one's Roxy's House, and we can serve 3 families there. Each family has their own room, and then they share community space of the kitchen and bathroom and things. And then we kept getting more calls after COVID hit, so we decided all of our offices used to be at the story house up here, and we moved all of our offices out and we made them into bedrooms for families, so we were able to serve 3 more families there. And then in April of 2021, the warming center was closing. They closed on April 1st, and there were 7 families staying at this hotel owned by HRDC. It was called, I think it's called Wheat Suites. There were 7 families still staying there, and they were going to be displaced, and we did not want that to happen. So within a span of a week, pretty much, we jumped in and said, what can we do? And then we came up with an agreement with HRDC where we are now renting the top floor of the hotel and have space for 12 families that can stay there. And we have been at full capacity and have waiting lists. So we can serve about 18 families in the shelters now, which is pretty amazing. So our Roxy's House and Story House are the initial shelters that families will join if they have higher barriers. So families that don't have transportation, don't have a job, don't have childcare, they'll move into those programs first. And then families that come to us with a job, with childcare, with transportation are a little more stable. They move into the Stepping Stones program in the hotel. And then each program is supposed to be 90 days. So the Roxy's House and Story's House, the higher need families will be there for at least 90 days, and then they can graduate into the Stepping Stones program. And then families that come to us and that start in the Stepping Stones program, they have those 90 days to work on their goals and try to get more sustainable and on their feet. And then there's opportunity for extension of the program if by the 90 days they still aren't in housing, as long as they're working hard to their goals and following all of our program rules. We won't put them out on the street. We'll extend the program for them. And then we have stabilization. We have 2 programs here. We have our transitional housing. We have 10 units around Bozeman and Belgrade that we own, and our families will move into those housing units for up to 2 years. And it's just these are the higher barrier families that if they have like a poor credit score, they have no rental reference, if they have a lot of debt, this is 2 years for them to kind of be in a stable home, but working their way more into the normal rental market. So when families move into our transitional housing units, they will pay $350 to start out for rent, and then every 6 months it goes up by $150, and that extra $150, or the extra over the $350 goes into a savings account. So then when they're done and they graduate, then they can get a big chunk of change. I think someone graduated and had like $5,000 that we just gave them right back because they had started that savings account. And he moved to Idaho and got a job as a plumber, and he's doing really well. And then we have graduated support. So any families that go through our program, they have the option of graduated support once they leave our shelter, and this is just to keep up with case management and resource navigation to make sure that they don't fall back into the cycle. This is less intensive. They're not really required to meet with the case manager as much. It's usually once a month or if they need more. But this is just so that the families know that they can reach out to us when they need something, so that they're not scared to ask for help or falling behind on rent, so that we don't have to invite them back into the shelter. We can keep them in their housing. All of our programs, we have our case managers that work with the families. And in case management, we work on 5 main categories, which is housing, fiscal responsibility, transportation, childcare, and well-being. The housing, we get them connected with HRDC, and they will get on the Section 8 housing lists and all the waiting lists, and we just work with them to browse Craigslist and look for any housing opportunities. We teach them how to fill out applications for housing and just help them navigate the crazy market. And then fiscal responsibility, we are checking the receipts of all of the families we're tracking what they're spending. They have to save 80% and they could spend 20% of their earnings because they have housing for free and we provide food and things like that for them. So we really want them to save money while they're in our program. And then we also help them navigate resources like the food bank and Love Inc., get employment, start bank accounts, start their credit score, help their credit score, and just work a lot with their finances. Transportation, we have our Wheels to Work program where we have cars donated to us and then we can give them to families that don't have transportation. It's huge to have transportation if you're trying to get to a job and drop your kids off for childcare and all of this stuff. And then we also have funding for helping families get licensed and get insurance and get registration and everything, so they're set up for success there. Childcare is very important to getting on your feet if you are experiencing homelessness, and I'll get into that a little more later. And then well-being, we have funding to help with getting families into the gym if they just need like some emotional release, and we have bought like swings for sensory swings for our kiddos with autism, and just we try to do wraparound, like getting them into counseling and all of getting them connected with community health partners and things so that they can work on their well-being as well as all of their stressful situations and all the finances and stuff. So I don't know how much of you know about our new facility, but right behind Lowe's, we just finished up our new facility. We got the keys 2 weeks ago. Last week was the first week of our Rising Stars Early Learning Center. It is very busy and very exciting, and I am so happy about it. It's been in the works for about 3 years. We broke ground last January, and then, so we just got in a few weeks ago. It was a tax credit partnership with GMD Development, and it's in this little community. So the one with the star is us, and then this is Community Health Partners right here. And then all of these are HRDC affordable housing. These units right here are for seniors and disability, and all of them, there's about 232 units available, and they're kind of opening up in sections. We have about 3 families that have moved into the housing so far. So it's really exciting to have some more affordable housing in this community. And it's really great to all just be in one community. So you can go get your mental health counseling, your prescription, and then drop your kid off at childcare and live in your affordable house. It's very fun. Typically you would fundraise all of your money before you break ground on a facility like this, but we had the opportunity to have the free land, and then also GMD gave us $1.5 million off of the top of the whole cost, so we've just been kind of chasing ourselves fundraising for the building. We did pretty good, but we still have $800,000 left to help us out with our loan that we took out. So we're still fundraising for that, and we have our grand opening on March 10th, if you guys want to come check out the building. More about the building. Upstairs is the day center and our staff offices. I'm very excited about the offices because when we moved out of the story house, we moved into Bridger Apartments, had a little 2-person office that about 7 of us were working out of. So me and one of my coworkers were hanging out in the entranceway, and then there was 2 offices where there would be in and out like 5 other employees. So I have my own office now. It's very exciting. But also it's a day center for the families to come during the day. At Roxy's house and Story House, they're going to be shut down during the day, so the families will either go to work or they'll come and work with case managers and apply for housing and things at this the day center facility. We're still working on getting some furniture for the upstairs, but in the back right, or the top photo in the back right corner, there'll be computers there so the kids can work on their homework and families can apply for jobs and things there. This little window is a kitchen, so there's a full kitchen there with a lot of storage for the families. There will be 2 stackable washers and dryers there for families to come do their laundry. There's a bath and a shower, and there's storage closets for the families to put their things in so they're not keeping it all in their car when they're in their shelter. And then, so this is just a really exciting thing for our families to come. And this will also be outreach to the families on our wait list and families through prevention and things. So this will be a bigger community resource for families that are not just in our shelter. And we're hoping to open this up on March 1st for the upstairs day center. And then Our Rising Stars Early Learning Center, the bottom floor of the new facility is a childcare facility for, we're just soft open, so we had 20 kiddos start last week, but it'll be, when we're at full capacity, we can have room for 96 kids, and ages 4 weeks to 5 years old. And we're gonna reserve at least half the spots. We wanna see where it will go because we still need to pay. So we'll have full paying families, and then at least half of the spots will be affordable to anyone. So we'll use the Best Beginning Scholarship, and then the families won't pay anything. We also have a scholarship fund so that we can make sure any family can access childcare. It can be more expensive to send your kid to childcare than it is to send your kid to in-state college, which is crazy because you have 19 years to save up for college, but you have no years to save up for a baby to go to childcare. So we kind of put this into our prevention and stabilization programs because it's helping families not choose between rent and paying childcare. Currently, only 1 in 3 kids in Montana under the age of 6 have a safe place to go for childcare that's licensed. So we're excited to open 96 spots up for more kiddos to have a safe place, because usually kids will go to their neighbor's house or go to, just kind of get thrown wherever. I know there was a story about one nurse that she couldn't find childcare, so she had like a different person watching their kid each day, and that's just not good for stability of the kid. So here we have amazing huge classrooms and a beautiful playground that was designed by this lady who did Storing on the Playground, and we have even like a little running stream in the summer, and so it's supposed to be like really bringing the outdoors in, and we want the kids to feel comfortable and have a good place. I always say that it's like a big huge Montessori school that you would think would be really high end and have a lot of rich or wealthier children attending, but this is a school for anyone, so it's really fun and exciting. And then we also have in the downstairs, there's a community room. It's our multi-purpose room. So we're hoping to have courses for families to do, financial classes, and even it'll be open to the community to do. We'll eventually have like events and classes, and people can rent it out and just have a space for that. And then we also have a full commercial kitchen. It's very beautiful. But we'll be able to rent that out also for maybe food trucks and things to get some extra revenue through that. If you are interested, we will do tours, and we also will have our grand opening on March 10th, but it's a really exciting place to check out. So volunteers are a huge part of Family Promise, and we definitely would not be anywhere where we are without our volunteers, especially for the first 13 years. The volunteers were the ones keeping the families and helping the families out with everything and hosting the families. And we still, since we switched from the rotational to the static model, we still are finding more ways and trying to get our volunteers to stay involved. Especially with us moving into this new facility, there's going to be even more opportunities, which is exciting. But yeah, there's plenty of things to volunteer for. We have providing meals, providing groceries, which is what the churches are doing at the moment still. And then if you're interested in doing more volunteering, we always have opportunities with moving families into housing, with cleaning up when families graduate, events. We had a fun little Halloween party for all of our families, and we just want to like involve all of the families and make them feel like they have a place to be in a community that supports them. And then I guess I'll talk a little bit about the change of volunteering, because it used to be providing meals every night of the week. We had a lot of food waste when we were doing that. When we switched to the static sites, there was a lot of, you don't know how much the families are eating, so there would be like 2 full lasagnas, the families only ate 1, then there's a whole lasagna that's not going to get eaten. So we changed it to be 1 night a week at each of the shelters, 1 at Roxy's and 1 at Story House. And then also supplemental groceries for the families to help learn to cook more. And then we also help the families budget for food stamps and use the food bank, because when the families were graduating, they were saying, I don't know how to cook, I've had amazing meals brought to me every single night. So just kind of building that empowerment for the families to cook their own meals and have those resources once they graduate. And then, yeah, we don't have overnight hosts anymore either, which is we haven't had any issues with. We have cameras set up in all of the facilities that aren't in the sleeping rooms, so we haven't had any issues, which is pretty exciting. But also I know for a lot of our churches that was the hardest part to get volunteers for. So that's kind of my spiel, and if you guys have any questions.
Did I read correctly that some of the employers are partnering by having their staff send their children to the child care, to the daycare?
In the news article this week?
Yeah.
I think that was just kind of a shout out to those employees
Oh,
for doing it.
okay.
It's not a direct partnership. We
Okay.
have been talking with some companies like Thrive and things for
Right.
their staff, but we can't really give them any
Okay.
preference kind of thing, but
Okay.
we obviously, yeah, so not exactly. Thank you.
How many families actually stay in the Bozeman area once they go through the program? Or are they often leaving and going to more affordable places?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's kind of one of the first conversations we have is this realistic for you to stay here? Because there's like a 0% vacancy. So we do have those conversations. A lot of them do end up sticking it out just because when they come to us, we ask, do you have parents or family anywhere else that we can help you get to? We're hoping to develop our diversion program so that we can help with like a moving van to get out, because it's really expensive to move too. So, but for now, yeah, it's just kind of a conversation. Most of our families do end up just staying, but we do have probably 3 or 4 families a year that move away. Thank you. Yes.
I guess the general question is how big is the need, but I guess maybe more specifically is like what's the wait list, or how many families are out there that would love to be part of the program that can't?
Yeah, right now we're in the process of hiring a case manager, so we're not at full capacity because of just staffing. But I think we just offered someone a job, so that's exciting. And then, so we will, I think, have all 18 spots of shelter filled. Right now, everyone on our wait list is in somewhere, so there's nobody sleeping on the streets or in their car. We're really close with HRDC, and they have funding for hotel rooms. So some of the families are like staying in a hotel until they can get into our shelter, or they're not getting evicted until the end of the month, or things like that. So some of we call it a watch list because some of the families aren't currently experiencing homelessness. But once we also have like prioritization. So if a family is like getting kicked out on the street the next day, then we'll do whatever we can to get them in. So it kind of fluctuates, but we do have most of our spots filled. Yes. And it gets a little busier in the winter because in the summer a lot of the families are camping or staying in their car. I guess one of my things I forgot to mention is family homelessness is often very hidden because families are living 3 families in one house, or sleeping on couches, or sleeping in their car because they don't want CPS to get involved, so they like really aren't like out on the streets looking for help. They're hiding, and it's really embarrassing for a lot of them, so they're just trying to not be seen, so you can't really see the problem.
As a church that's going to be hosting, what we used to call hosting, but now we're not hosting anymore, what do we need to ask our volunteers to provide? Just the meals? Is that all you're?
Yes, it's meals and groceries.
Okay.
So it's a meal on Monday at Story House, and then a meal on Wednesday at Roxy's house, and then at the beginning of the week, supplemental groceries, which I would give a list of those groceries, and it's a specific list that they can circle from, so they're not asking for candy and Hot Pockets and all that stuff. Yeah. But they do love cookies. And so does the staff that get to have cookies. Yeah, and then we are trying to develop this a little bit more. We are, since COVID, so when I started, I kind of got the volunteer position, but it wasn't my official position. So it was just kind of like helping bring this along with us. But now that a lot of people are just getting more involved after COVID, We're kind of redeveloping the volunteer and what that looks like. So we have some online trainings that we're hoping to get all of our volunteers retrained. And just building our base up to help with the other needs around the day center and in the child care center. And yeah, so we have a lot of opportunities to still have volunteers be involved. For the churches, we also, like the picture of the Halloween, that was one of Journey Church, they hosted the party. So if your church is interested in having like a movie night or something for the families, then that's also something that we can look into. But the only expectations are that dinner and groceries. Yeah. Yes?
How do you staff the child care center? Are you having trouble finding people to?
We actually have a really amazing team. We only have a few classrooms open right now because of staffing and because we would probably go crazy if we had 96 kids starting a child care center in one day. So we've done okay. We are still hiring though, and the schedules are kind of weird. Like some of the staff has to do split shifts throughout the day because we don't have that extra help. We are looking for volunteers to come help, but they don't count in the ratios of the teacher to children. But it's just kind of a helping hand so the teachers can focus. But yeah, we still are hiring. I think we're just kind of getting our feet wet still, and then we're going to do another surge of hiring so that we can open more classrooms.
With children that young, what's the approximate ratio between staff and children?
It's different. I'm not an expert at that. I know that for the baby rooms, it's one teacher per 4 babies, and then once they get older, I think in the 4 and 5-year-olds, it's one teacher for 10 kids or something like that. So yeah, it's all like our executive, or the director of childcare, she is always just like looking at her schedule and trying to figure out ratios and all of that stuff. Because even if you have to like take a kid to the bathroom, then you have to take all of the kids to the bathroom. So that's pretty for since we will be a licensed child care center. There is a lot of rules around ratios. Yes.
Yeah, how do you pay for all of that?
This is all privately funded and through grants. So we have our amazing team that just goes out and shares the mission, and we have a very generous community that has backed us up. We do a lot of we did like mailing campaigns and have the remittance envelopes and things like that. Yeah, so it's all privately funded pretty much. We don't use federal funds because they can be really restrictive, so we can't do all of the things that we're doing for our families if we use the federal funds. But we also got a grant through the city for COVID relief too, so we've had pretty good funding, which is exciting. And then we'll have the new scholarship fund too, where we'll have a whole, I think, the month of May, we're hoping to do some sort of Mother's Day funding where it's like help us send other kids to childcare. So yeah, we just hired a new development director, so we're gonna do more fundraising and see what that all looks like.
You know, it's a scholarship. Does that qualify for state tax credits?
Yes, I believe so. We can also get you in touch with someone else that would know a better answer to that, but yes.
I would like to
Yeah,
know that.
definitely.
Are you partnering with MSU at all with like, or do you see with the observation deck and they have the early childhood program there?
Yeah, I forgot to mention that. We do have, above all of the classrooms of the older children, there's the windows and a whole hall at the upstairs for the observation deck where they can look down and the windows open and they can hear, so the teachers aren't in the classroom with the kids jumping all over them. So yeah, we're partnering with MSU, and hopefully we'll have students come through and do their observation hours, and then also eventually maybe want to work for us. So.
You might mention your own story. How did you happen to get involved?
I had an internship at Befrienders when I was a student at MSU, and then Crystal Shavilchek was the executive director there, and she moved over to Family Promise, and she is an amazing mentor and person in general, and so I was like, I want to do that too. So I followed her over to Family Promise as an intern, and then I've been there ever since. I really love it. I really love working with the families, with the kiddos. It's very rewarding, and just being there for the kids is just amazing. Very fulfilling. Any other questions? I also wrote my email up here if you're interested in learning more about getting involved, or we can set you up with a private tour if you're not able to make the grand opening. If you're interested in any questions, if you have any more questions, you can email me, or also on our website it has our general email, so feel free if something else pops into your head. But thank you so much for listening to me and for also being part of Family Promise when they were being hosted in your sites, because it's just huge. You guys are amazing.